Welcome to Office Hours with IB Season 2, Episode 8, Money, Power and Responsibility. Wealth with Integrity Season 2 is about leadership, maturity, not just building businesses, but becoming the kind of leader growth requires. And today, we're talking about something many founders avoid discussing openly: money, power, and responsibility. Because at some point in your journey, success stops being theoretical, revenue increases, influence expands, decisions carry more weight, more people are affected by what you choose, and this is where leadership is truly tested. Not when you're struggling, but when you're succeeding. Many founders say they want wealth, but very few pause to ask, who do I become when I have it? Because money doesn't just expand opportunity. It expands character. It amplifies your habits. It magnifies your values. It exposes your leadership. Money is not just a resource. It is a force multiplier. A powerful insight from the psychology of money is this: financial success is less about knowledge and more about behavior. In other words, how you handle money determines what money does to you, not the other way around. When founders first start, survival drives decisions. Cash flow matters. Profit matters. Growth matters. Everything is about making it work. But as the business grows, the questions change. Now you must ask, how is wealth being created? Who benefits from growth? What impact do my decisions have? What standards guide my power? Because success without reflection creates imbalance, and imbalance eventually creates consequences. Let's talk about power. Every scaling founder gains it. Power to hire, power to fire, power to set culture, power to influence livelihoods, power to shape direction, and power is not neutral. It reveals whether leadership is grounded or ego-driven. History in business, politics, and society shows a clear pattern. Power without responsibility destabilizes systems, but power anchored in integrity builds trust, longevity, and legacy. This is why Second Mountain leadership is not about accumulation, it's about stewardship. You are not just building wealth, you are managing impact. Here is something rarely discussed. Many founders are prepared to make money, but not prepared to manage what money changes. Because growth brings new pressures, more visibility, more expectations, more complex decisions, more ethical tension, short-term gain versus long-term trust, speed versus sustainability, opportunity versus alignment. At scale, every decision carries weight beyond profit. There is another important perspective from principles. Clear values must guide decision-making, especially when stakes are high, because when pressure increases, default behavior takes over. If integrity is not intentional, it becomes optional, and optional integrity eventually becomes compromised. Leadership. Let's make this practical. Wealth with integrity requires structure, not just intention. This week, I want you to define what I call your founder wealth principles. Write down clear standards that will guide how you handle money, power, and influence as you grow. For example, what will you never sacrifice for profit? How will you treat people when you have leverage? What responsibility do you carry toward your team? How will success change or not change your values? What does ethical growth mean in your business? This is not philosophy. This is leadership infrastructure. Because when decisions become complex, clarity must already exist. Here is the truth many founders discover late. Making money is a skill. Managing power is maturity. Sustaining integrity is leadership. And leadership determines whether success becomes legacy or pressure. Second Mountain founders don't just ask, how do I grow? They ask, how do I grow well? How do I lead responsibly? What does success require of me as a person? Because wealth is not the destination. Character is the container that holds it. So here is your reflection for this week. If your business doubled in size tomorrow, would your leadership be ready for the responsibility that comes with it? And what standards must you define now before growth demands them? Next week, we explore another critical shift: emotional stability. Why regulated founders make better strategic decisions. Until then, build wealth wisely. Use power responsibly. Lead with integrity. I'll see you next week. Welcome to Season 2 of Office Hours with IB, where every setback is a setup for your next success. Let's stop building to impress and start building what lasts. I'll see you next Monday. Subscribe now and join me next Monday, same time, same space, for another powerful session to fuel your week as a founder.